Attack on Titan, 10 times. Levi was the worst character. Levi is a beloved character in Attack on Titan, but there were times when his actions were morally questionable and hurt his comrades. As the captain of the Scouts and Parody finest soldier, Levi Ackerman is often considered one of Attack on Titan's most charismatic characters. Without his aid, Eren would have been captured by the island's enemies time and again. Especially as he continued to act more recklessly toward the looming Marleyan threat. However, there are dozens of instances where Levi was either irrational, incompetent, or both. By identifying the captain's worst moments, we can better discern whether or not he is worthy of the praise he is lavished with by the fanbase. 10. Levi's indecision led to a terrible outcome for his squad. During the Scouts' escape from Annie in the forest, Levi's decision-making led them to complete ruin. Instead of taking charge and ordering Eren to retreat, the captain allowed him to follow his heart. As a consequence, Levi's squad gave their lives for nothing, since Eren would eventually attempt to fight Annie regardless of the time they bought him. If he and the Scouts had battled her together, or if Levi simply forced Eren to commit to the plan they agreed on, he never would have needed saving to begin with. 9. Levi almost fought Mikasa in military court. When Eren was brought before military court, Levi savagely beat him in order to prove that he could be controlled. As sound of a plan as this might have seemed, he failed to disclose it to Armin or Mikasa. Considering the latter's known allegiance to Eren, it comes as no surprise that she attempted to lunge at the captain in the middle of the trial. Had Armin failed to restrain her, the Scouts' gambit would have been ruined. By failing to share his plan with Mikasa in advance, Levi ran a tremendous risk of losing Eren to the military police forever. 8. Levi was absent in the battle for Parody. After his failure to subdue Zeke, Levi was injured by the shrapnel of a thunder spear. In addition to disfiguring him for the rest of his life, it significantly reduced his ability to fight for Parody. This was particularly problematic for the heroes since they needed him during Marley's second invasion. Ironically, if the captain had successfully detained Zeke, Eren never would have been able to unleash the rumbling and save his home nation from complete annihilation at the hands of foreign invaders. 7. Levi failed to kill Zeke at Shiganshina. Commander Erwin and virtually the entire Scout regiment gave their lives so that Levi could close the distance against the Beast Titan and eliminate him. To the captain's credit, the monster was cut down in a matter of seconds and without much of a chance to fight back. However, Levi was too obsessed with the notion of harnessing Zeke's power to consider that he might be a danger to keep alive. Consequently, Peak was able to save him, rendering much of the sacrifices the Scouts made in vain. Though they were able to liberate Shiganshina, Marley retained one of its most powerful shifters. 6. Levi beat up Eren for no reason after Liberio. After the battle for Liberio, Eren was brought aboard Hank's escape Zeppelin. Though the Scouts were relieved to have him back, particularly the solemn Mikasa and Armin, Levi proceeded to pummel him relentlessly. Unlike Eren's first beating, which attempted to showcase his restraint to Dalis Zachary and the military police, his latest attack had no objective aside from being cathartic for Levi. It clearly cannot be perceived as a disciplinary measure, as Eren displayed no regrets for his actions after being imprisoned back on Parody. 5. Levi failed to save his first group of friends from the Titans. In his younger years, Furlan and Isabel were Levi's closest friends. He held them dearly to him, as indicated by their brief but heartwarming interactions. Having grown up in Parody's squalid underbelly together, they joined the Scouts after Commander Erwin's abrupt visit. Despite Levi's legendary skills, he was unable to save either of his comrades from being murdered by pure Titans. His failures haunted him long into the future, and at one point, he almost even took out his anger on Erwin himself. 4. Levi let Aaron save Armin over Erwin. Armin and Erwin were the most significant casualties at the second battle for Shiganshina. Despite the latter's strategic importance as a figurehead of the scouts, Aaron and Mikasa both insisted for Armin to be revived instead. Though Levi relented at Erwin's request, he knew that the commander would have been a more invaluable asset to Parody than Armin. As a consequence of his restraint, Heng was appointed the scouts' next leader instead. Their repeated failures to curb Aaron's behavior ultimately led to disaster. 3. Levi threatened Erwin for wanting to fight at Shiganshina. Erwin discussed his intentions to fight on the eve of the battle for Shiganshina. Understandably, Levi had reservations about the commander's plan, especially since he had already lost an arm to a pure Titan. He went as far as to threaten breaking Erwin's legs so that he would stay behind. If Levi had actually followed through with his coercion, no one would have been able to rally the scouts against Zeke. Consequently, they would have been pinned against the outside of the wall and slaughtered brutally. 2. Levi failed to stop his soldiers from drinking Zeke's spinal fluid. When assigned to guard Zeke on the outskirts of Parody, Levi and his men were offered Marleyan wine. Unbeknownst to them, it was tainted with the Beast Titan's spinal fluid and turned whoever drank it into weapons usable at any time. While Levi himself was rational enough to refuse the wine, he allowed his men to share it among themselves. Not only did this make him responsible for the death of his entire squadron, it also resulted in his mission's failure. 1. Levi was mostly useless in the final battle against Aaron. Levi offered precious little to the heroes even after recovering from being struck with a thunder spear. He had a minor role in the final battle against Eren Yeager, failing to rig his nape with explosives or even to make a dent against the hundreds of ancient Titan shifters on his back. The captain's most meaningful contribution was through decapitating Zeke Yeager. However, this is hardly impressive when considering that Zeke approached the heroes as a willing ally, rather than a bitter, anti-Eldian nihilist.